small farmers, and I hate to see people really love, say, keeping goats and always be in the hole constantly because kid sales are only so much, and having to dump out, you know, milk and waste things, but they really want to keep the livestock and be a viable part of farming. So number one thing being, herd share is not a sale. I know you all probably understand that, but I really got to get that through your head that you really need to make sure you're doing this as a share, making sure you're doing the contracts, understanding you're selling a very small percentage of your herd to the consumer. Don't make this a casual thing. Even if you're doing it with friends and people you know well, still have a contract for your own protection. And remember that what you're doing is going to affect the whole community that's waited many years for this. It's not just about you, it's about the whole group of people across the state of West Virginia that may grow to depend on this. I know some people that have been waiting with operating dairies to convert that are actually, you know, there's Windy Ridge Dairy up there in Preston County. While you may do it as a side thing, there are people that may actually be able to way to support their family this way. So it's really important you do things properly. Don't give the state any reason to even exploit a small mistake, because as we've seen, that's what they want to do and that's what they will do at every opportunity. So contracts really need, it's a legal document. Don't make up your own contract. Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund, if you join, because it's a nonprofit organization that defends small farmers and local food, we will write you a contract that is consistent with what it needs to say in West Virginia. So just join Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund. I think it's $150 as a producer per year. And
what's his name again?
Pete Kennedy. Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund, and they will write you your contract. And it's very detailed to you. It takes a little time. If you absolutely can't do that, there are some examples on www.herdshare.com. I have some examples on there. But again, ideally, have one tailored to you. It's a legal document, and you do have to file it with the Department of Ag. Other states don't require that, so they're going to see it. So if it's an informal agreement that's not saying what it needs to say, you're giving them a reason to cause you a problem. So make sure you're doing it correctly. So do that, and make sure that there are some people that use herd shares as a way to let the consumer have cheese and butter and things. You can do that usually legally by converting their product as a courtesy. So that actually works pretty well. I haven't done it personally, but I know most states work out a way where herd shares operate where you're doing it as a service with their product. You're using your expertise. So we haven't operated in West Virginia before. How that's going to work here, I can't say, but there's nothing excluding that, and it works in other states. Ohio being one that I know lots of herd shares, especially goat shares, will make cheese, and you use their amount of milk and return the product. They're going to get much less cheese and all that. So that's a thought. And then the thing you need to understand is herd shares aren't insurable. That's something I clarified. I talked to Marilyn a bit about. I talked to Pete Kennedy. He said he knew of no insurance policy that had ever covered a herd share in the United States. He says in some ways, yes. The reason being that how can you insure it, because you then could sue because you're a part owner.
But also, if you don't have insurance, it's harder for them to sue.
Well, there's not anything to get, you know. I mean, you don't. An attorney's going to be less apt to take that up because what are they going to get? There's not a policy to go after. But it is something for you to understand. And if you mention having a herd share to your farm policy, sometimes they'll try to drop you. If they're not covering it, it really doesn't matter. They may give you a hard time. So again, that's something to be aware of, that this is not something you can insure for various reasons. And a lot of people didn't understand that. Some people do argue that the herd share is more protection for the farmer because of the fact that going to court,
you have all these owners.
You have all these owners. They're all legally, with a legal document, a co-owner of the herd. So if you do things properly, you're probably never going to have an issue. I don't want to fearmonger so I'm awfully cautious. So keep that in mind. I was talking about before everybody got here, when the actual herd share goes into effect is a little bit up in the air. End of May is when the law should go into effect. The way it is written is that the Department of Agriculture may impose rules allowing the health department, DHHR, to talk to them about and suggest rules. It's real important to understand we kept the health department out of this bill. They have no authority in any way. All they are allowed, which they could have done anyway, is suggest what they would like to see to the Department of Ag, which they would have done anyway. That was real important to me because they would have destroyed it. They don't have that authority. And because the Department of Agriculture may impose rules, rulemaking doesn't have to, the legislative rulemaking doesn't have to accept those rules. It's very good that we have a lot of advocates on the rulemaking. I don't think if people talk about wondering what rulemaking is going to do, it has to be within the confines of the bill anyway. They can't just make up broad things. So the fact that we have this bill is remarkable. You just have no idea really how remarkable it is that it came out the way it did. And so really just you're going to have to play that by ear. The state vet is saying you have to wait till rulemaking comes out. That is kind of a gray area.
Yeah, have they said if they're going to require TB and brucellosis testing yet?
That I believe is even in the original language. Yes, that's what we actually know is that TB, brucellosis, and any animal coming in has to have that. I believe that's the only testing that's currently required.
So they're going to require you to be certified and accredited then?
Yes.
Do you mean we have to get our goats tested
You'll have
before
to
we sell the milk?
before you sell the
Or
shares.
those two things?
Because those things are.
Yes.
And we don't know yet if we can draw our own blood.
Marilyn's saying it sounds
I'm
like
saying
you
no.
say
Any
no.
of the states I know of that have, legal milk sales, you have to be
Well,
certified and
TB isn't a blood
accredited.
draw.
How did you do it?
And
That has to be. Yes.
You are rulemaking is a comment period. If you want to make sure you can pull it yourself,
Make sure it's in language.
go start contacting your rulemaking committee, which I can link to. I don't know where it'll go, but it's up to them. They can say, and Kelly is very she was very concerned about the costs that it would be to the producer, and you be aware that you can sit and contact them and say, I absolutely, and see where it goes, And elections are coming up, so, you can use your weight. They said, the governor's office said, during the period before he did sign it, that there was not a single call in against the bill from a private, there was a lot of people. We had, the federal level was lobbying against us and working against us and the commercial dairymen, but so that was really a positive thing. The health department was using your tax dollars to hire lobbyists to work against it. I talked to them right in my face, the word, I'm paying you to work against my freedom. But anyway, so do comment during the comment period. If there's things you want, you can't go outside of the language. They can't reverse what the bill says. All they can do is structure rules around it. So make sure whatever you're wanting, you're telling the rulemaking committee. Then make sure you're pricing your shares fairly and competitively. If you want to sell shares for $3, what does that do? Number one, you're not making anything, you're in the hole. But number two is you're hurting your other farmers, and I think there has to be some cohesive agreement that people aren't going to undercut and devalue a product that could be a viable economic opportunity for farmers. And even at, say, $10 a share is kind of your start point nationwide for goat shares. Sometimes you'll see cow shares a little less than that if it's an all-grass-based farm. But if you start devaluing the product, you're just hurting everybody. And I know as a consumer, we like a value because we have some consumers here, but in the same token, unless a farmer's pricing things at about $10 per share, they're not making anything, and they shouldn't have to work to give somebody a product for free or go in the hole.
How do you define a share?
A share is structured as a gallon. But you really stay away from language that says $10 a gallon. Don't ever put that on anything.
Oh.
You're not selling milk, period.
Oh.
You're selling a percentage of your herd, and therefore it breaks down to a gallon would be what you would receive for your share purchase. $10 is the price of your share. It's really that serious that you don't. They will use that to say, even if you have a contract, you're really selling milk. So really cautious about that. But $10 per share, and a share being a gallon, is the national average. There are places where it's $20 a share. You're never going to get that here, and that's fine. You have to be... Huh?
I said, I probably wouldn't get $10
Oh,
where I live.
well, I don't know where you live, but I'll tell you, I know...
Well, you live closer to,
Exactly. That's the thing. So, I mean, don't price where you can't move something, and certainly, really, you're not in competition. I'm down here in Huntington, where there is a big market that's got a viable high-end market clientele, where, yes, if you're out in,
I live in
McDowell County or Jackson County, it will be a little different, but still understand that you don't have to give the product away. People that want it, they'll... Here's how viable a firm economic opportunity this is. Because I've been the Weston A. Price chapter leader for about 7 years, I've been the point of contact for all raw milk in the state for all that time. So I know how much is being sold, and I know what they're getting for it. And I know Pennsylvania brings milk down here, and it's worth them coming from Pennsylvania to sell it in Huntington. So price your product fairly, and that's all I have
Well, you
to
also have a
say.
range. You have, like, the farm co-op, or the Friendly City Co-op in Harrisonburg is charging $16 a gallon for goat milk. $16.
Well, that's nationally not an unusual price.
No. So if you could, you've got some wiggle room to sell your milk.
And remember that anywhere you go, Walmart's selling organic milk, even in Jackson County.
Oh,
And
yeah.
people are buying it. So remember, you should never price it under the organic price
Yeah.
for any reason. I mean, even if you feel like you can't go to $12 a share, you should not price it less than your Walmart selling an organic product. So
Well,
you don't
I
have to do
I
that.
told my
Thing is,
son,
you're gonna be dealing with people coming to your house.
yeah.
Everybody that comes wants to pet the cute little animals, and they don't come in and get a product and leave. They're going for the whole
Yeah, they are.
experience.
Well, and that's actually where I thought I was going to wrap it up there. That's an important thing as a consumer. You know, people are busy. I know you want to come out and hang out and play with everything and let your kids get in my bathtub and all, but you really can't do people that way because they'll just stop doing the program. It becomes too time consuming.
Yes.
And I know some people work it out to where they actually, this one farm has a barn that animals aren't in, and they have their big freezers in there, and you just come in and get it, and you've already paid for your share. And that's something that, as a producer, you may want to look at, because otherwise you'll be tied up with people. And you have to be real firm with people. You can't be friendly where, oh, you missed your share, you don't have to pay. If you pay, you pay every week. Whether you pick it up or not, you're paying. You have to run it that way, elsewise it's a sale, of milk. So you pay for your share. If you don't get it, that's sad, but you pay.
Yeah.
And this is the day you need to come. It's not being mean to
But
people,
it's
it's
up
just
to them.
business.
It's up to them if they pay to get it. It's not
Yes,
up to
it's
you
not up to you to get it
work
to
it
them.
out for them.
Also, I caution you about taking off the farm and needing people. I wouldn't do that. It's a little easier to keep people off your farm, and remember, if they also have animals, it's a biosecurity thing. I wouldn't let people all over everywhere anyway, but try to remember it's a business. If you're the consumer, you need to come get your product and go, and not to be harsh. Maybe that first time when you come meet somebody and you want to see what they're doing, I understand as a consumer, you do want to make sure things are clean, and you'll have that information at the end of what Marilyn's going to tell you what to look for. But you can't do that every time. Once you've established, I believe this is a good herd, stay out of their barn, get your milk, and go home. Because they're working people, and a lot of them have other jobs and so forth. So that's about all. And all this is on herdshare.com. I have like the etiquette as a consumer, the etiquette as to how all that should go, pricing everything fairly, where to get your contracts. It's all there, and we'll then post all this when it's all said and done. So then I'll let Marilyn go on from here.